In today's video, measuring your impact as an instructional coach. Hello, coaches! Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Quick Tips. My name is Kim Capino, and I've worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create thriving and sustainable instructional coaching programs. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. Come learn with me in one of our courses or private mentoring packages designed specifically for instructional coaches. Join our global Coach Better community, ask any questions you'd like to hear us answer, and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. You can also find us on social media at Eduro Learning or in our Coach Better Facebook group, and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube to catch all of the latest videos. If you're not sure where to start, take our free quiz to get a tailored list of resources delivered straight to you and designed specifically for your level of coaching experience. Find it at coachbetter.tv/quiz. In today's video, we are talking about the importance of measuring the impact of instructional coaching and sharing that data with all stakeholders. I have been wanting to create this video for such a long time because this topic is one of the most common concerns I hear from senior leaders or school boards. It's, how do you know coaching is making an impact? How can I see the return on investment when I hire instructional coaches? When schools are choosing to invest in non-teaching positions, it's essential to understand how that work is positively impacting student learning, and also, in this case, teacher learning. This can come as a surprise to new and even experienced instructional coaches, because as educators, we're not required to formally prove our value on a regular basis. That process is already kind of baked into the structures of the school. However, for instructional coaches, this is not the case. If coaches are not measuring their impact, there is likely no one else on staff who will be doing this work, which means it can become very easy to say that no impact has been made. Instead, it's essential for instructional coaches to recognize that intentionally collecting data to measure their impact and then share it with the whole school community is actually part of their job. Although the idea of measuring the impact of instructional coaching is complex, it can and should be an integral part of coaching work. By developing sustainable and consistent practices for collecting data, coaches can regularly reflect on coaching interventions that make a positive impact on learning, allowing coaches to better structure their time and continue to refine their work, as well as to validate the program's success to leadership and other stakeholders. In this episode, I'm going to share 2 main reasons why measuring is so important, along with 3 types of data you can gather, so you can get started immediately. If this is something you are thinking about as an instructional coach, good for you. We address this very topic in all of our courses for coaches, all based on your specific experience level. So stay tuned to the end of this episode for another learning opportunity so you can get started measuring your impact today. Okay, let's jump into the episode. One important thing to consider about measuring your impact is that it hinges on having defined goals to measure in the first place. If you've been a listener of the podcast or subscriber here to our YouTube channel, you know that ACES, the Association for the Advancement of Instructional Coaching in International Schools, recently conducted a landscape study of instructional coaching in international schools. And when Jordan Benedict shared the results of that study at our ACES Leadership Speaker Series, he shared one of the key outcomes. In clearly defined coaching programs, they are much more likely to report benefits of those coaching programs. Ultimately, schools can't measure what hasn't been defined. So we need clarity around the program so that we have focus and momentum. In a previous Coach Better episode with Jo Ellen Killian, she said, if I can describe it with specificity, it is far more likely to be achieved than if I don't have the capacity to be specific. More time on the what and less time on the how. We do that backwards in schools. We spend a lot of the time on the how without clarity on the what. So this means that both instructional coaches and school leaders need to be aware of the importance of implementing our work as coaches with intention. We need to understand what we hope to achieve and be intentional about collecting the data to determine our success. As coaches, as you're beginning this process, it's helpful to keep in mind that the data we collect is a tool to inform our practice. It's information to help us make the next best decision. It's not an evaluation of our work as such. As Laura Lipton said in another Coach Better podcast episode, the purpose of data is to continuously improve. One of the issues is that data is used to prove, not improve, and people can get uncomfortable with that. So when coaches can reframe their lens to seeing data as a way to continually improve their practice, it becomes easier to start approaching data collection with an inquiry stance. With that mindset established, taking the time to track and reflect on data collected can be both validating for coaches and a great way to share the success of coaching with others. So there's one essential key before you get started collecting data, and that is that even though collecting data might be new for you and it can easily get lost in the busyness and complexity of an instructional coaching role, it's essential that both coaches and leaders recognize the importance of data collection as early in the academic year as possible. It's difficult to know the exact data that you might need to evaluate the impact of coaching before the collection process begins. This means the most important part of data collection is just to start. Once coaches recognize that data collection is part of their responsibility, they can begin to start collecting that data, even if it's with a very small first step. On an early episode of the Coach Better podcast, Jordan Benedict, who at the time was a data coach at Shanghai American School, said, "The goal is to start measuring and taking action and tweak questions as you review the data. The questions don't have to be perfect at the start, and coaches can fine-tune their actions over time." This means collecting data and reflecting on data is an iterative process of refinement that involves layering strategies year after year. As coaches are beginning to explore collecting data, it can also be helpful to remember that data is just any information that you have access to. It doesn't have to be just numbers. Coaches can collect all different types of data to provide a reference point in time, which allows coaches to make the next best decision. Data allows coaches to try something, see what happens, collect more data, and then make the next best decision. Decisions grounded in reality require data. And as Jordan said on that same episode I just referenced, just one point of data is enough for you to inquire further. It's the regular reflection and the process of examining this data that allows coaches to continually refine the data collection process and add layers of detail and nuance to the data collected year after year. Diana and I talk about the importance of collecting and reflecting on data in a couple of other Coach Better Quick Tips episodes, so I'll link them up here and in the show notes for you. As you're looking at the data that you collect to refine your methods of collecting data and get a clearer picture of the impact that you're making, you might want to ask yourself some of these questions every time you reflect on your data. What did the data tell us? What other data do we need? What questions arise? And what's the next decision we can make? Asking these questions will allow coaches to uncover exactly which data they need to gather next, to continually answer the questions they or their school have about the impact of coaching. There are two main purposes for data gathering. The first one is to track data to refine your individual coaching practice. Building a practice of reflecting on data at multiple points throughout the year provides regular opportunities for coaches to reflect on how they can refine and adjust their individual coaching practice, as well as stay focused on their own professional goals. We talked about this in a previous Coach Better Quick Tips episode, 2 ways to reflect on your year as an instructional coach. I'll link that up here and in the show notes. Having data about your practice can help coaches understand what to do more of and what may not be a valuable use of their time. A simple structure to start is to reflect on data collected at the end of the first semester, and then more significantly at the end of the year. Over time, coaches can build in simple practices to reflect on data at the monthly and even weekly level as the processes become more and more streamlined. The second purpose to collect data is to evaluate and validate your coaching program. Often positions that have no student contact time are the first to be cut when budgets are tight. Ensuring that there is a comprehensive and ongoing record of the work that coaches are doing will help retain this essential position. When sharing data with school leaders, it can be very valuable to include actual feedback from teachers, like quotes, videos, and images from the classroom. Sharing the impact of coaching among teachers can also help build a coaching culture, providing insight into what's actually happening in coaching cycles and directly demonstrating the value of investing in coaching. In fact, one of our conversations inside the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program, one of our cohort members, who's currently a classroom teacher, raised the point that they would be most likely to engage in a coaching cycle if they could see case study examples from their school demonstrating the impact of instructional coaching on student learning, with data and examples to back it up. In this way, collecting data can serve multiple purposes. Coaches can use this data to reflect on their practice, to support the validation of the role, and to build understanding among teachers about the value of engaging in coaching. It can also help teachers and leaders understand what's happening in relation to coaching around the school. They may not actually know how coaching can support them. So making this work visible is a great way to inspire other teachers to connect with and engage with a coach. When coaches understand that one of the informal leadership aspects of instructional coaching is being an advocate for the work coaches do, making time to track and share data becomes an essential part of the role. Tracking and measuring the impact of coaching and then sharing those results are part of advocating for coaching. If you're not sure how you're an informal leader in your position, we also have a bunch of episodes about that, and I will link them up here and in the show notes for you too. There are 3 key types of data to gather. The first one is teacher feedback or lead indicators. The second one is student assessment data or lag indicators. And the third one is time tracking of your coaching. When we're talking about this first one, teacher feedback, we're talking about coaches collecting data around usually qualitative lead indicators like teacher confidence, willingness to take risks, improve student engagement, or understanding over the course of a unit or a coaching cycle. As coaches are collecting this kind of feedback, it's worth considering collecting artifacts from teachers like quotes, videos, and images that can be helpful to inspire other teachers and share with leadership. We do all of this in the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program. So when you leave the course, you actually have an artifact that demonstrates the impact that you've made over the course of this year. Building those habits in a supportive community can help you feel really confident with how you can do this ongoing in your years as a coach. The second point of data that you might consider looking for is lag indicators, which usually is student assessment data. Lag indicators can be used to show long-term impact, so they come later than those lead indicators. Once coaches have this kind of lag data, they can begin to correlate their specific work with teachers with data from teachers' internal and external assessments. And then that third piece is time tracking of coaching. I think this is the most valuable for coaches to determine what aspects of their work have the most impact. So you can actually track your own time to answer the question, what did I do with this teacher? How did it impact the work they did with their students? And then what might that have impacted in terms of student learning? When we know how we're spending our time, we can see which aspects of our time are having the most impact. This can become really cumbersome because there's a lot of information we want to collect. So the idea is to make it as easy and intuitive as possible, as quick and seamless as it can be. The tracking is really just the start of the process, so it should be easy and quick because the end goal is the analysis. As I said before, this is an iterative process. It is likely that the first thing you do to track is not going to be the thing you're doing several years later, but just giving it a try and seeing what works is the most important part. Developing a process to measure the impact of coaching is long-term work, and coaches and school leaders alike shouldn't expect immediate results. This is an ongoing commitment that requires relationships, trust, and ongoing development. One of our The Coach graduates, Ashley Martin, pointed out on a Coach Better podcast episode that I will link up here and in the show notes, the first year of coaching is not going to look like the end goal of our coaching program, but it's so worth the time to do the things that set ourselves up for success in the future. By taking the time to build relationships, clarify purpose, and track the data of your work, schools are providing the safety and security needed for teachers to truly engage in coaching. This also gives coaches the time to refine the collection of data over time so they can more accurately correlate their work to student learning outcomes. Documenting that instructional coaching has made an impact on student learning outcomes requires time, intention, and support structures. This is work that requires years, not days or months. Putting structures into place to be able to sustain this kind of data collection and reflection is essential to measure the impact that you're making as an instructional coach. If you take only one thing away from this video, the idea is to just get started. Even if it doesn't look the way you think it should or the way you wish it did, just get started because every time you reflect on those results, you'll be able to refine your process a little bit more and get a little bit better feedback and data the next time around. I'll include tons of links and resources in the references in today's show notes, so you have all of those examples, all of those references that I was sharing earlier today. If this episode resonates with you and you are ready to start measuring your impact, and you want to dig a little bit deeper than what I shared today, we do that in all of our courses for coaches. In fact, we have a very specific course called Measuring Your Impact as an Instructional Coach that goes much deeper into this topic that you can start today. That course is available anytime. It's self-paced. It's a mini course. It's about 3 to 5 hours to complete. You can start it and finish it in a weekend. I will link that in the show notes for you to have a look. Also, in all of our global cohorts for coaches, we talk about how you can measure your impact. That global cohort will help you take the next step in your coaching practice within a community of coaches around the world. Whether you're brand new to coaching or an aspiring coach in getting started as an instructional coach, or you are a current coach ready to be more intentional and strategic in your practice in the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program, or you're a coach who's ready to lead in Coaches as Leaders. Find all the details for all of our cohorts for coaches at coachbetter.tv/learn. Global cohorts open only once a year. If you're not sure which of those courses sounds right for you, watch one of our free workshops for instructional coaches. Each of these workshops are designed for your experience level, so you'll get the right next step for you right now, and you'll uncover which course is right for you next. Find them all at coachbetter.tv/learn. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. If you're curious right now and you have questions, please reach out. You can leave a comment down below or on the show notes on our website at coachbetter.tv. You can join our Coach Better Facebook group, or you can find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. I'd love to support you on your coaching journey. See you next time.